Being a plane inventor anywhere in the world is no easy job. Being a plane inventor in Africa? Oh, that's an extreme sport. In other places, inventors start their aviation dreams with investor backing, team meetings, and more computer simulations than you can ever shake your joystick at.
Why you are ready for to go up?
In Africa, you start with something more precious, pure hope, recycled metal, and the unwavering belief that gravity is more of a friendly suggestion than an avoidable law of nature.
Take a propeller.
Now let's begin at square one, the African Aircraft Workshop. Forget sleek white laboratories or air-conditioned hangars. Here, the design office is often your backyard. The blueprint is a wrinkled piece of paper, and your engineering assistant is a very patient cousin with a hammer. Now, being an African inventor, it doesn't matter where you get to build your plane. It can be on the road, your backyard, or even in the forests. And that is what is called being an African inventor, because you use what you have. Take for example Ethiopia's Aash Zero, who built an entire plane from scrap. No engineering degree, no advanced computer software, just jaw-dropping determination. Bicycle wheels, and metal that was probably once part of a cooking pot or an old bed frame. Look at this plane. Does it look like it was built in a state-of-the-art hangar? I didn't think so. And the main intention for Zefiro when building this plane was because, and get this, he wanted to use it for his wedding. So this plane was supposed to be used as a grand entrance to Zefiro's wedding. And I guess his wife-to-be was impressed, because I mean, wouldn't you be? Someone building this thing for his wife or his wife-to-be, I mean, he'd get every lady in his village. It's like those choppers that you see during weddings, you know, those grand entrance choppers that everyone has to stand and stare. That was what this plane was supposed to be used for. Now, I don't know what was going on in Zefiro's head, because first of all, this thing, I don't know if I should call it a contraption. Of course, he didn't use a motorcycle engine like, you know, the usual African inventors. At least he tried to use a Volkswagen Beetle engine. And it's quite practical. So much so that during one of its testing days, the propeller just came off with people around. I mean, that is, what do you call it? Watching Zefiro push his plane out for its first test felt more like preparing for a wedding, you know, because everyone was in extreme anticipation. The entire neighborhood showed up, but instead of confetti, everyone held their breath, waiting for the crash or the miracle. And there's also another plane that was built in Congo by Gabriel Lumumba, and that is an amphibious plane. This amphibious plane has the looks, has everything that is required, but I don't think this plane was going anywhere. I don't think that Lumumba had any intentions of flying it, because as much as this thing is so beautiful, I think it belongs in a museum. And it looks like a boat and a plane combined. So if Lumumba was able to build this, I'm sure he used one of his boats and then built a body around it. Now when it comes to the engines, rumors have it that he was gifted this engine by a Mzungu, and that is a white person. And the Mzungu having gifted Lumumba this engine, Lumumba still wasn't able to make it fly. And what does that say about us? Even though he had the engine, the looks of the plane, he still couldn't be able to make it fly. And the story gets better. In Burkina Faso, Kafando introduced the world to his aircraft, the KHR-45AR. This masterpiece had wheels so slim you'd think they were designed to balance on tightropes rather than take off. The propellers? Let's just say if plastic had a union, it would file for a complaint against this kind of abuse. Now the person who built this helicopter, I'm not sure what they were thinking, because a helicopter that is still using metal wheels. I mean, when was the last time that you had any sort of vehicle using metal wheels? Because the last time I saw that was maybe a wheelbarrow. A wheelbarrow was the one that I saw, and that was like maybe 20 years ago. That's when wheelbarrows were using metal wheels. But in the 21st century, we have an African from Burkina Faso building a chopper from those same wheels that were being used 20 years ago. I mean, is this the definition of Stone Age? Because if this is not it, then I don't know what is. But if you thought that the struggle stopped at construction, you are in for a treat. Funding is another beautiful tragedy, because there is no country or government in Africa that has a wind tunnel. A wind tunnel is a place where the planes are tested without risking the lives of the pilot or the inventors that have built the new models of planes. There's no government that has that in Africa. So if the government can't test your plane, how can they approve you? So basically, approval for planes in Africa is non-existent. While American inventors might pitch to Silicon Valley or government for multi-million-dollar grants, African plane inventors often pitch to their own families, local shopkeepers, or at best, a friend willing to lend some leftover welding rods. Sometimes the only investment you get is someone offering to help you push your plane off on test day. And if your plane finally moves, by some combination of divine intervention and sheer stubbornness, then brace yourself for the next big hurdle. Even if your aircraft could outperform a Boeing 747, some officer at the licensing office will probably still stamp your file with, under review, come back next year, or come back never.
Yeah, obrigado.
Mockery from your community is free of charge too. Like in the Bible, the way Jesus was rejected by his own people. Here, African inventors are mocked on by their own people, because the first thing when the community realizes that you're building a plane, they first start grieving for you, because they know that you'll either end up dead or just wasting a lot of money on something that will never be taken seriously. When your neighbors first see you assembling your plane, you'll hear things like, "This man is preparing to meet his ancestors." And if your maiden flight ends in a nosedive, which is usually the case, expect a full house at Sunday service thanking God for sparing the neighborhood from your flying metal death trap. And that's one of the main reasons you'll never hear a DIY plane made in Africa that took off, except for Joseph from Uganda. In the end, he broke both his arms, and that was the last time Joseph ever tested his own plane, because there were no resources for a safe test flight. In the West, the focus is on redefining aerodynamics and increasing passenger comfort. In Africa, the goal is simple: make sure it moves, make sure it lifts, and most importantly, make sure it does not burst into flames on camera. Because looking good in camera is one of the most important aspects for every African inventor. The media loves to focus on Elon Musk's rockets and Boeing's fancy new jets. But the African plane inventor is the unsung hero of DIY aviation. With no fancy workshops and very limited resources, these creators turn what the world calls trash into flying, or at least rolling muffins. While others sit behind desks calculating thrust to weight ratios, African inventors are literally living the equation. Because if the equation is wrong, gravity will make sure that you find out the hard way. This experience creates real-world problem solvers who could build an aircraft with a pocket knife and a flathead screwdriver. So, why does it suck to be a plane inventor in Africa? Because the road to the sky is paved with potholes, skepticism, and recycled balls that might have already retired from active duty. But it's also a story of resilience and raw human determination. Being a plane inventor in Africa is like preparing to take off with both wings held tightly together by hope and stubbornness. It teaches you to survive, to improvise, and to laugh at the odds. Because in Africa, even if your plane doesn't fly today, you learn enough to make sure it soars tomorrow.